Hello, hello, hello. How's it going? Let me turn down the volume on that. Hello, Schwinn. Hello, Yazoo. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Alrighty. I need to mentally reset gears here. Alrighty. So we're gonna continue work on our little Pikmin stream game. It's not much of a game yet, but we'll get there eventually. So we got a bunch of Pikmin that'll randomly wander around on screen, so that's pretty fun. So I think mostly what I want to do right now is just focus on Pikmin interactions, get the Pikmin AI working, and then we'll start adding more actual gameplay to it from there. I think that makes sense. So we got a little Pikmin sprites wandering around, so let's... I'll see you add the other colors at some point. Yeah, we will do that too. I'm going to focus mostly on gameplay interactions right now, I think, and then we'll start adding the other colors and differentiating them. That part's going to be kind of boring because that's just going to be sitting there image editing for a while. So we got Pikmin walking around. And theoretically, we have the other maturity levels as well. Brandon keeps trying to play Mercy DPS, and he's bad at it. Oh no. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Just because you can use the pistol with Mercy doesn't mean it's a good idea. Most of the time. Alright, let's take a look at our sprite sheet here. So I think we could probably go ahead and put an onion in. That would make sense. So all these red Pikmin have a spawn point to start from. So why don't we go ahead and make an onion? It was an experience. I imagine so. Alright, let me get a grid going again so I can see where we need to line these up. Why is there an onion spray without the flower on top? No idea. That is an excellent question. Alright, I think we're using a 32 by 32 grid here for the most part. Yeah. Okay. Let's presume that we're going to put the other colors and the other headwear vertically here. So we can put the onion here in the next spot. So we're going to what? Looks like these will fit in a 4x4 grid square. So that should work. Let's see. We do that like that. I don't know if that's gonna run up against the top border with the other frame here. Let's see. No, just barely touching the top. Okay, that's fine. And then when it's slightly offset to the right, there we go. We're in July's recap. I watched it for 1 day and 10 hours that month. I said I only stream for like 2 or 3 hours at a time. That's impressive. So that would be what, 34 hours? So that's 17 streams, something like that. I sent 1,254 messages in chat. Yeah, that sounds about right, honestly. And they're all appreciated. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's define the sprite for our red onion here. For the same recap, you streamed 10 times, so I guess just a lot of long streams. That would have to be for 34 hours, that would have to be 3.5 hours on average per stream. Which I guess I have been streaming longer than usual lately, but I didn't think it was that much longer than usual. Apparently you missed one. That's surprising, but I guess it's possible. I don't know what it would have been, though. Possibly one of the Sunday streams? No idea. Yeah, I don't know. Unless I, like, accidentally went live at some point and it counted that. Alright. So we got these coordinates here. 384, 0. And it's a 128 by 128 image. Okay. So let's define this sprite here. Sprites. We got Pikmin red, Pikmin leaf, onion red. And this doesn't have a direction. So we don't need that. Just onion red. Yeah, and then we just need to set up the sprite definition. So 128 by 128. There are only 2 frames to this animation. We'll figure out the offset next. What is this? 384, 0. Okay. We don't know what the offset needs to be yet, but it's probably something like 64 by 64. We'll try to line that up so that's the spawn point underneath the onion. I think that'll be the idea. Okay. So we got our Pikmin. Thanks to the hydrate. So now we also need to describe our onions. So here we got our Pikmin onion. So onion will have an X coordinate and a Y coordinate. Color, which is the same as the Pikmin color, so that works fine. I guess we could have an anim offset as well. So our onions aren't in perfect sync if we have multiple. And then I guess we could just have like the number of Pikmin that are in the onion. Or we could have a list of all the Pikmin. No, that shouldn't be necessary. Just a count. What would I call that? Like residents, inhabitants, stock, Pikmin stock, Pikmin count. Let's say Pikmin count, that's fine. Now we got our list of Pikmin, but now we can also create our list of onions. And right now we're just going to have the one red onion. I know Pikmin could count. Oh, well, you know. And let's put our onion right in the center of the screen. For now. Well, I don't know if they can count or not, but certainly the captains can. Since they have to know to stop when they have enough Pikmin to throw onto an obstacle. And it seems like sometimes when you tell Pikmin to charge, they always charge the exact number they need to do an obstacle. So that's kind of suspicious, you know? So maybe Pikmin can count. It's called instinct? Well, then they can instinctively count. Mm-hmm. Flawless logic. Alright, so we got our onion, and now we need to draw the onion on screen. So we're going to have a slight problem here, but for now, let's just go ahead and draw them all. Sprite, o.x, o.y. Sprites, onion.red. And the current time, and the animation offset. Yep, there we go. Logic is overrated, and you know it. It's true. However, we're using logic to code right now. So, debatable. Oh, and I need to set up my TypeScript stuff. That's cringe, you should stop. No logic, only chaos. Fair enough. Oops, I didn't need to full screen that. Just minimize it. There we go. Still no onion. What am I doing wrong? Oh, did I not update the sprite sheet? Not update the sprite sheet. That's probably why. There we go. Okay, now we got an onion on screen. And the propeller is spinning. Very fun. So currently the Pikmin are always being drawn behind it, which is not going to be completely accurate in all situations, but that's good enough for now. Feel like it should be a bit bigger? Probably. But these are the size of the sprites I have. So we'd have to start doing sprite scaling. Which we could. We don't currently have a setup for that. If you can, that's fine too. True. Let's see how it looks though. Linear? No, that's still gonna be blurry. There we go. So now it had to be an 8x8 space. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's right, we just need to line it up. There we go. So that's if we double the size of the onions. And the coordinates should still be the same, but now the size is doubled. There we go. That's what a double-sized onion looks like. It's probably about the right size. Okay, now let's see if the pivot points are lined up where we want. They're probably not. Let's see, where am I doing the offsets? See once you're closer to done if it's too much or not. That's right, so we're calculating the offsets there and draw a sprite. So something we can do here is we can just go ahead and draw a circle there. After we draw the sprite. Yeah, so currently it's right there in the center of the sprite, which makes sense, but it's not where I want the origin point, the pivot point of the onion to be. Let's adjust that. There we go. So now it's like the center point of the onion is kind of in the middle of its circle on the ground. Which feels more appropriate. Yeah, if we need to resize it later, we can. That's good enough for now. So as you can see, currently when they walk behind the legs, that they're immediately shown as behind it, even if physically it looks like they should be in front. That's going to be a more complicated problem to solve, because sometimes they should be behind the legs and sometimes they shouldn't be, depending on circumstances. So like, for example, if they're standing right here, where my cursor is, then they should be in front of this one, but behind this one. So we're going to end up having to probably break these sprites apart and do some weird logic. So I'm going to split it about the middle of the legs, yeah. That's basically the idea. But then we also are going to have to sort it based on the Pikmin before, in front of and behind it. So we're going to end up having to like draw everything sorted back to front, not just the Pikmin. So we're going to need a more complicated drawing loop for that. We're not going to worry about it for now. But sooner rather than later, we're going to have to rework how our drawing code works to be able to sort everything from back to front, not just the Pikmin. Okay. So we got the onion. So now, just for the sake of making this interesting, why don't we have the Pikmin spawn from the onion? And not all at once either. So here in our red onion, let's say that there's 100 Pikmin in the onion. And instead of this loop here where we generate all these Pikmin, let's write a function. Spawn Pikmin from an onion. Let's make this an asynchronous function that runs over time instead of being immediate. And let's define a way to wait for a certain amount of time to pass before we do something. So instead of spawning all these right at once, we can have a little bit of a helper function to do this. Let's wait for a certain amount of seconds. So I just happen to know the code to do this. I'm not going to explain how it all works. It's very particular to how JavaScript does asynchronous programming, so don't worry about it. You worrying about stuff? Come on, that never happens. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that should work. Yep. Okay. So now we can write our spawn function. So we got our onion. And let's just presume that there's enough Pikmin in the onion. Actually, no, we can have a check for that. So we're gonna loop through all the Pikmin we want to spawn from 0 to whatever count we specify. We can check if onion's Pikmin count is less than or equal to 0. There are no Pikmin in the onion. Then break out of the loop. We can't spawn more Pikmin than there are Pikmin in the onion. But if there are Pikmin, then we can add Pikmin to our list of Pikmin. So they'll just be idle for now. And they'll be, let's just say, leaf Pikmin for now. I don't actually know how the onions select which Pikmin to spawn, if it's like all the leaves first or all the buds first. I would assume it's probably all like in order of like most mature to least mature. But we won't worry about that for now. So instead of 0, 0 for the x coordinates of where we're starting the Pikmin at, Pikmin will start at the onion's position. That would make sense. And then they'll move to a random place near the onion. So let's say like within... How big is the onion? Did we say it is currently 128 pixels wide? So let's say somewhere between 128 pixels to the left or to the right of the onion. And then we kind of have a perspective thing going on here, so we won't have quite as much range vertically. Let's say like plus or minus 32 pixels. Which I guess means they're not idle, they are moving when they spawn in, which would make sense. The direction they spawn in doesn't really matter. Let's say a random direction. And they are of the onion's color. So always red in this case, but this will work later if we add other onion colors. A random animation offset. They have been idle. There we go. So we spawn the Pikmin, and then we subtract 1 from the onion's Pikmin count, because it's no longer in the onion. Its Pikmin counter goes down. And then if we still have more to spawn, then we want to wait a little bit. So if I is less than count. Now we can just always wait, no matter what, that's fine. So we wait. And Pikmin spawn pretty quickly in the games. And they're just pouring out of the onion. So let's say we just wait for like 1 frame, like 16 or 1/30th of a second. between each Pikmin spawning. That should work. Okay, so that should loop through, and that should just keep spawning Pikmin until it's run out of count to spawn. Oh, I could write this a little bit better. I could say, while count is greater than 0, subtract from the count. So we could say if count is still greater than 0, we still have more Pikmin to spawn. We wait. My window's been closed all day because of rain, and now I have a moth fluttering against it on the outside. That's annoying. Okay, so now when we load the game, let's see, first time we run, yeah, we can start spawning Pikmin from our onion. Here we can loop through all of our onions. We only have one. Let's do onions. Spawn Pikmin. Spawn from the onion, and we'll just go ahead and spawn all the Pikmin that are in the onion. That should work. So yeah, look at that. Now we got all our Pikmin spawning from the onion. And then they go off and wander around. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, they should have like a whole animation of them sliding down the legs or whatever, but we'll worry about that later. Programming limitations. Okay. So now we got the Pikmin spawning. I'm thinking work on being able to let them carry stuff. So they can carry it back to the onion and spawn more Pikmin from the onion from it. Something like that. Get the basic loop of Pikmin reproduction going. So let's see. Just want to grab a pellet posy. Pellet. This thing's pretty small. We can just shove that away in the corner over here. There we go. We do the same thing we're doing everywhere else, where we'll just lay out all the different types vertically underneath this. And we'll start there. Lumine, how's it going? Okay, so we need to find this sprite here for this pellet. So pellet. Software to use for the drawings. This is a program called GIMP, a GNU image manipulation program. It's kind of like a free open source Photoshop. I didn't make these sprites though. These sprites were made by a variety of other people, and I'm just borrowing them. Found them on DeviantArt. Alright, so 896. And it's a high number. And then I think this is just 32 by 32. Yep. Size of the sprite. And the offset should probably just be in the center there. That would make sense. And there's no animation here. There's just the one frame. Alrighty. So now we gotta define something else. So this is a pellet, but a pellet is really a kind of thing that could be pulled by Pikmin, collectible, I guess. And there's a lot of different kinds of collectibles that all work kind of similarly. So instead of directly defining the pellet, let's define a collectible. So a collectible has a position. And it has a Pikmin value, which is how many Pikmin you get for cashing it in. So like you think like a monster corpse. There's also a collectible that is worth a certain number of Pikmin. And yeah, that's the basic idea. And we also need some kind of type for it to distinguish that this one's a pellet posy. And also so we know what sprite to draw for it. Let's see. Collectible type. Draw all of them at once. That is eventually the plan. Alright, so none. Let's say pellet is 1. Good enough for me. And we also got a bunch of other things that we're going to be drawing here, like the Pikmin and the onions. So I think I want to actually go ahead and do one more than that. So we're also going to have something that Pikmin, onions, and collectibles all have in common. Currently they all have positions. And you know what, the pellets are worth more if it's the same color thing. We're going to do a little bit of a hack, but we'll get to that. Pellets are going to have a little bit of special logic just for them. So I'm going to define something called an entity. An entity is just kind of a word for a thing that can move around and exist. Hacking? I'm reporting you. Not that kind of hacking. Probably. So an entity has an X and a Y position, and it has a type. And actually, entity type. And maybe we don't even have a collectible type then. Let's see, what kind of entities do we have so far? Currently we have a Pikmin. We have an onion. And a pellet. So now a Pikmin, instead of having its own X and Y position, we can just say that a Pikmin is an entity. And so it automatically has a type and an X and Y coordinate. And an onion is also an entity. So say I put the onion as 1 and the Pikmin as 2. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But we could do that too, yeah. Swap that around. As long as the numbers are unique, it doesn't really matter what the numbers actually are. And really, I want the entity types for these other things to be something pretty specific. But it's probably fine. Don't need to worry about that too much. So a collectible is also an entity. Just that my brain processes that kind of thing better in order of importance. Makes sense, makes sense. So collectible has an X, Y coordinate and an entity type. So here's where we're gonna get a little bit fancy. So currently Pikmin has a color, Onion has a color. You need the Onion to have the Pikmin inside my branch, so logically the Onion will be earlier on the scale. Fair enough, fair enough. That does make sense. So I'm going to take the color property, since Pikmin have color, Onions have color, and some collectibles have color, specifically pellet posies. I'm just going to say that all entities have a color. For a lot of entities, that color is going to be none. But that's okay. There we go, and then almost everything is going to be drawn and potentially animated. So animation offset could also go under entity. And doesn't need to be part of Pikmin or Onion. So there we go, and now these blocks look a little bit simpler. Now Pikmin just has the fields that are the properties that are important for Pikmin specifically. The Onion just has the properties important for Onions. Collectibles just have the properties that are important for collectibles. And everything that is on most things is on the entity definition here. So now we're going to fix up our code a little bit. So for Onions, they need to know that they are the Onion entity type. So there we go. Pikmins need to know that they are the Pikmin entity type. And now that's working again. Okay, and then something else we can do here. And we can just leave that as is for now. We don't need this random Pikmin spawning code anymore though. So now we got our function for it. Instead of having a list of Onions and a list of Pikmin, actually we will leave those as is, but we'll do another thing. We're going to have a list of entities. And then for all of our Onions, or we'll just do it directly here. Move this Onion creation elsewhere. I'm gonna add a function for this, like start. Or when our game starts, we can have logic in there. That'll be a little bit cleaner. So we create our Onion here. Curiosity showed somewhere how many words you have. I don't know if it does on this directly now. Word count? No. They do have 407 lines of code so far. So we have our specific list of Onions here. But we can also add our Onion to our list of entities. Maybe wonder if the number of words was somewhere. Yeah, I think it was like a word processor, like Microsoft Word, then it would show a word count somewhere. But usually with coding, you don't measure things by the word. Cool, and same thing when we spawn a Pikmin. We're going to add it to our list of Pikmin. We're also going to add it to our list of entities. And actually, I think most actual Pikmin games probably work similarly to this under the hood. So we got a list of Pikmin, but we also got our super list of entities. So we got our logic to update our Pikmin, that's fine. But now when we draw things, instead of just sorting our list of Pikmin by height, we can sort our whole list of entities by height. And instead of looping through onions and Pikmin separately, we can loop through all our entities. This is where it gets a little bit tricky though. So we could check to see like if entity type is Pikmin. Then we do all our logic to all the Pikmin in there. But now it's going to complain that we're doing things like checking the Pikmin's maturity and stuff, and that's not a property in all entities. So I think we have to get a reference to the specific Pikmin. So we'll find our Pikmin in the list of Pikmin. There we go. Now it's fine. Otherwise, if we have an onion, we draw our onion. This one we don't have to do anything special because there's no special properties on the onions that are required for drawing them. And if we have our pellets, same thing. Sprites dot pellet dot red. Current time, current animation offset. There we go. So Pikmin get fancy custom drawing logic, but everything else is just gonna pick the appropriate sprite and draw it. Simple enough. Now if we take a look at what this looks like. Now sometimes the Pikmin get a stand in front of the onion, and sometimes they're standing behind it. Still not exactly right because of how the legs work differently at different depths, but it's closer now. So now they're all being sorted and drawn together. So now let's also spawn in a pellet posy here. So we got collectibles, yeah. So we don't even have a special type for pellets specifically. They're just going to be a collectible. The entity type will be pellet. So let's spawn our pellet at a random position somewhere on screen. Okay, anim offset, same thing, random number. Not that it really matters for pellets. And I'll make this a red pellet because that's the only type we have. And by default, they're just worth 1 Pikmin. So that's fine. And we add that to our list of collectibles. And our list of entities. There we go. We probably haven't updated the sprite sheet. There we go. What's the push part for? That's just how JavaScript names the function for adding a item into a list. For whatever reason, it's you push the item onto the list. I don't know why that's the term that is used, but that's the term. I think the pellet is upside down. It isn't. It's just because the yellow dot at the bottom is throwing things off. So if I get rid of that, it'll look fine. There we go. So it looks upside down to you, just less. Fair enough, I guess. Okay. So I want to program it so that the Pikmin will automatically go and pick up the pellet and then carry it back to the onion. And then it'll get absorbed into the onion and it'll spit out another Pikmin. There's going to be a lot of changes that are going to have to go into the system to make that work, but we'll figure it out. Brain's weird, don't worry about it. What if I want to worry about it? Are you going to stop me? Alright, so something I've been thinking about. That's your choice, fair enough. As we got all these properties, like start in X position, target X and Y position, blah blah blah, that don't really matter all the time for the Pikmin. Like when the Pikmin is idle, it doesn't care about all of these properties. So instead of having those directly on the Pikmin, I want to do something a little bit fancier. Gives any kind of responsibility about it, fair enough. So I want to define a Pikmin command. So Pikmin can be doing multiple different types of commands, depending on what it's up to. So for example, it could be idling. We could say, instead of Pikmin state, we could say Pikmin command. And if they're idling, then they have this idle time. How long they're sitting there doing nothing. If they're idle, can they stare ominously into my soul? They already do. When they're idle, they have a direction always facing downward towards the camera. And we can also have a Pikmin command for moving. Exactly. And that's where we have start position and target position. There we go. Now instead of a Pikmin state, we've got the Pikmin's current command. That seems to be Pikmin command type. There we go. That should work. So now instead of all these properties being in here, you can say when we spawn Pikmin, with their current command to be a move type command. We can move their start and end positions into there. Now they don't need this idle time anymore. And that way, when we tell them to give a new command, like for example, carry pellet, we don't need all these extra properties laying around taking up space. You can set them all the time. So now we can see if Pikmin.command.type. If they are doing an idle command, then we got this logic. So in the final game, obviously, idle Pikmin will just stay idle until they're given a command, but currently we do have them start randomly moving if they are idling. So I think that's fine. So now we can say we can replace the command entirely with the move command. Testing purposes, I think that's fine. Yeah. Because we don't have a captain yet to give them orders. There we go. And then same here, we need to adjust the code for moving. We had a chibi pixel hawk or lure for the captain. That would be fun. I can probably modify the Olimar Louis sprites. That'd be fun. Alright, so the rest of the logic here pretty much works the same, but when they go idle, we have custom code for that. We replace the move command with the new idle command. So they idle between 1 and 3 seconds. There we go. So that shouldn't have any direct effect on their behavior right now, but that will make it easier to add new command types as we go forward. And we can make it now so instead of wandering all the way across the map, then they just pick a location that is close to them. And they might eventually wander further away, but generally, unless they're doing something, they'll stay close-ish to where they are currently. There you go. So they'll eventually spread out. They also tend to congregate a little bit more now. Welcome back, Annika. Pikmin! Yes! So we're adding onions and pellets next. That's the plan. So we got those rendering now. So now we need to figure out the logic for how to have Pikmin carry the pellet. And it's so cute. Yeah, that's the thing. Where did the art come from? Random sprite sheet on DeviantArt. I didn't make it. So we got the credit for all the different usernames of the people there in the sprite sheet already, so I'll probably have to make a credit sheet for this. So that's right, Nitro Pikmin / Pikmin Freak 10,000, 100,000. There you go. Have a stupid question? Go ahead. No stupid questions, only stupid answers. That is true. How do you even ask? Like, how do you take images in the huge sprite sheet by saying, oh, I want pixels 30 through 50 for blah, blah, or is there separate places you have the images already split up in individual files? Nope, that is a completely reasonable question, yeah. So I do have it all just in one file here. I have been copying it out to my own sprite sheet just to make it easier to work with. But they're all in one big sheet. And then in my code, all the way up here at the top, I just define the rectangles of each sprite sheet, or each sprite animation in there that I want. So like here's the Pikmin red, so the red Pikmin's moving down animation. It's at the 0th x coordinate, horizontal coordinate, 0th y vertical coordinate. It's 32 pixels wide, 64 pixels tall. There are 6 frames in the animation, and I want the animation to play at 10 frames per second. I was saying right here at the top, 6 frames, 32 pixels by 64 pixels tall. Which I guess this makes complete sense. Live 2D models are the same way, it just seems so complicated in theory. Yep, yeah, no, basically the exact same principle as a live 2D sheet. Yeah. Modern GPUs really don't like loading lots and lots of small images at the same time. So it's better to have it all in one sheet and just split out, encode the sprites that you want. It's more optimized that way. Otherwise, it has to constantly be like unloading and loading new textures all the time to swap out all the individual images. So it's the thing. Okay, so I'm looking at the Pikmin wiki right now for pellet posies to figure out how they work. I'm noticing a lot of stats here that I wouldn't have taken into account. Never thought about being more efficient until you said it that way. Your brain isn't largening. There you go. Yeah, GPUs really don't like loading and unloading data, which is why loading screens are such a big deal. The more you can cram into video memory and just render straight from there, the better. So, right, I forgot, collectibles do have a weight to them. How many Pikmin you have to have on them to be able to carry them. Next loading screen is still the one that reboots the whole Xbox, yep. That's a pretty great story. And you can have up to 2 Pikmin carrying it. So I think that's important information. So our collectible has our Pikmin count, but it's also got a weight value. How many Pikmin need to be able to carry it. And then carry limit. How many Pikmin can carry it. And then, importantly, we also need to keep track of which Pikmin are carrying a collectible in any given moment. So let's also have a list of carriers. List of Pikmin currently carrying a collectible. I think that'll be useful for convenience later. Cool, and then let's add another Pikmin command type for carry. Let's see. How should we do this? So just because you've been told to carry a thing doesn't mean you're actively carrying it yet. You could be moving to it in order to pick it up and carry it. Those are 2 separate actions, right? When when you tell a Pikmin, okay, go pick up that pellet posy. And it's got to move over to it and latch onto it, and then it carries it. Those are both the same command, sort of, but they're different actions that take place during the command. So I think I'm going to split this up a little bit. I think I'm going to say we have a pick up command, which is when you're going to grab something. And then a carry command for when you're actively carrying the carryable, the collectible. I think that's the best way to split that up. Best thing about the loading screen is that, of course, it's a Bethesda game. Of course. Now, because they tried to back then have, like, you know, really big, in-depth worlds. Like, it's kind of the whole thing about Bethesda RPGs is you can just go anywhere on the map and carry stuff around and loot anything, which means they have a lot of stuff to cram into memory. So it's kind of like Blood Moons in Breath of the Wild. Now I got Skyrim for the past 3 generations. Well, you know, it takes years to make a game of that scale. Like at least 5 years, potentially more. So they did Fallout 4, and then now they're doing Starfield. That's what they've been doing for the past 10 years. I was like, yeah, fair enough. That's how long it takes to make a game that scale. Okay. Elder Scrolls 6 is just going to be Skyrim again. That would be funny. So, pellets have a weight of 1. They can have 2 Pikmin carrying them. And by default, no Pikmin are currently carrying the pellet. I think that is reasonable. And I can already see we're going to run into some of the same issues that the game did, but let's just work on getting this functional first. So we got our list of carriers. All our stats of our pellet. And again, we'll do the special logic for how much their seeds are worth later. So recent news about Starfield within the past few days. I never heard of it until yesterday, but I've seen it mentioned so much. No experiencing beta or Meinhof phenomenon or not. The big news was that the worlds are not in fact seamless, infinite, open, procedurally generated worlds. Was off the cuff tweet from one of the producers, and the community has been very upset about it all week. Even though anyone with reasonable expectations knew that there was no way that was going to be a thing. The Bader-Meinhof phenomenon is a thing. Make sure I'm remembering the right one. Yeah, the frequency illusion, the frequency bias. Basically, when you hear about a thing and then you notice that thing everywhere when you didn't notice it before, and it's not actually because it's becoming more common. Sometimes it's just because your brain wasn't paying attention, so it didn't notice it. But once you're knowing to look for it, you see it a lot more often. So like, if you're like, well, I haven't seen very many red cars, and then you notice a red car, and now you're looking for red cars, you'll see a lot more red cars. Not because there's actually more on the road, but just because now you're actually paying attention and noticing them. And it can cause people to think that it's becoming more common than it actually is. I do think it's being talked about more recently, also because we're getting closer to the launch. It's like, what, next month? It's coming up. Oh no, it's September 6th. So, a little over a month. And I think if you like pre-order, you get access to it at the end of August. Or at the end of October. Next, zero interest in the game, so I have no idea when it's coming out. Fair enough. I mean, I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna enjoy it, but my expectations are Fallout 4 in space. I'm expecting nothing more or less than that. And if they manage to have interesting mechanics, then I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'm also not expecting them. Those games are fun, mindless entertainment. Alright, anyway. So we got our Pellet Posy stats. So let's handle our new command type for picking up. So picking up something is almost exactly the same as moving to it. Like Fallout, it can accept some exceptions. You don't usually like space either. Yeah, then probably not the game for you. That's fair. So let's say if you are told to go pick up a collectible, what does that command look like? Here's our Pikmin commands. So if you're picking up something, you have where you were before, your start and end positions. But we don't have a fixed target position, because if we're trying to pick up something that's already in motion, the target position is going to be constantly changing. So instead we're just going to have a target, which is a collectible. For the Bethesda games where people don't really realize it's a Bethesda game also, like Prey or Hi-Fi Rush. Yeah, because it's published by the Bethesda brand, but it's not actually developed by Bethesda Game Studios. Makes sense? Cool, and then if we're carrying something, then we got our collectible. Let's see. It's not really a target at that point. Kind of. I tried Skyrim and Fallout 3, but I don't know. I find the main Bethesda games to be boring. No, that's completely reasonable. They're not very deep or interesting gameplay systems for the most part. I think of them like mindless entertainment. Like, you know, like a trashy TV show. Like, it's fun, it's enjoyable, but it's not particularly good. And if you don't enjoy those kinds of things, then it's perfectly okay not to enjoy them. Alright. And then where you're carrying something to is important. What's the best way to do this? So really, when a collectible is being carried, it only has one destination that it can possibly be going to, right? Like, you've got 3 Pikmin all on like a Bulborb corpse or something. It's only going to one of the Onions. So it doesn't really make sense for all of the Pikmin carrying it to all keep track individually of where they're going. That's really something that the collectible as a whole knows. But that's not necessarily true. Because a bread bug also grabs collectibles and tries to bring them to a destination. Just like a Pikmin does. A bread bug is also a carrier. But where it's trying to drag them to is not where the Pikmin are trying to drag them to. So it's more like the Pikmin negotiate amongst themselves where they're trying to bring the collectible to. So maybe that's how we have to implement this. gonna say like destination. Bird bugs are also particular as in they don't need 3 Pikmins to carry a dwarf bulborb. True. Yeah, I'd say their carry value or their weight bonus is much higher. And then whatever side has the highest weight, their destination wins. Like, if you've got 3 red Pikmin and 2 yellow Pikmin on a collectible, then it's going to go to the red onion, presumably, right? So for now, onions are our only possible destination for carrying something, so we'll leave that there. But if we implement the ship, then that would also potentially be a destination. So we'll leave it like that. Oh, is it collectible or collectible? It's an I or an A. This is important. It's with an A, okay. Collectable. Okay, so would have said collectible, but I assumed I was wrong when you wrote it with an A. Yeah, I imagine probably you could say it either way, but apparently I googled it and A is the more common spelling of it, so I'll go with it. So I could copy and paste all this code here, or I can try to reuse it. So let's see, what do these have in common? Could be a British English versus American English thing again. True, true. So this calculates the direction and a speed and moves towards the direction. So let's say move Pikmin towards. Target X, target Y. Move that in there. Then we can put this in here too to some degree. Alright, so instead of getting the target X and target Y from the command, we can just directly pass those in. Speed currently is just 50 pixels per second. I guess certain Pikmin colors might move faster or slower. It also depends on the maturity. But for now, we'll just leave that as is. Calculating their directions while they're moving, that should always happen. And currently when they get to their destination, it sets them to be idle. That will not necessarily be the case. What's delta time? Delta time is the amount of time between the last frame and the current frame. Basically the speed at which the game is running. So when the game is running really fast because it's rendering lots of frames, then delta time will be shorter. And when the game is running really slow, it's lagging out, delta time will be much longer. And it's not really important about the details, but the basic idea is that'll let movement be independent of the frame rate. When the game is lagging, you move faster. When the game is running quickly, you move slower. And it evens out so that you're basically moving the same regardless of how fast the game is rendering. Yeah, basically like ping, exactly. It's your GPU's FPS. And this is why a lot of older games have like the physics timed to the frame rate. So if like you have a higher resolution monitor in a game like Skyrim, all the physics glitch out because those are doing logic every frame. So if the GPU is rendering more frames, then the physics engine runs faster and everything breaks. A lot of older consoles and stuff also assumed that the game would always run at a constant frame rate. So they'd have the same problem. So that Evil Land is impossible to finish on 60 FPS? Yeah, that's gross. So this is a technique that was developed probably around the GameCube era to make it so that frame rate isn't critical for performance. That's been fixed since? I don't know. I remember their engine was kind of jank for Evil Land. That was a whole thing. Let's move this out to a better place. Eventually we're going to want to split this up into multiple files, but for now this is alright. Let's see, so we also need to pass in the delta time here. That's fine. I'll change the style, I don't doubt that for a second. Alright, so currently this moves them towards the target. That also all looks fine to me. The only issue is that when they get to the target currently, they automatically go idle. When we're trying to pick up something, we don't want to go idle. We want to start carrying it. So let's find a different way to handle this. Let's say maybe this function returns true when you've arrived at your destination. And if you haven't arrived at your destination yet, it returns false. So that way, the code that is moving the Pikmin calling this function can use that to determine whether to stop or not. So for example here, when we're moving, if move Pikmin towards Pikmin command.target X, target Y, delta time. So if we arrived at our destination, then we go idle. And instead of move Pikmin towards, we say move Pikmin 2. Now towards kind of implies this happens over time, so that's fine. So now we can just do the same thing here for the pickup command. So if we're trying to pick up something, then we have the collectible that we're trying to pick up. So our target X is the collectible's position. Our target Y is collectible's Y position. Now we move Pikmin towards that. And then we change their command to be carrying it. Carrying the same collectible that we were trying to get to. And our destination, let's just grab the first onion that's of our color. And the same color as the Pikmin. How's it going to choose which Pikmins go carry stuff? We'll figure that out. Currently, we don't have anything that actually tells it to go pick up things yet. But we'll get there. There's a lot of stuff that's going to go into making this all work. Okay, and when we start carrying something, we need to have some logic in here. So if the collectible carriers, the number of people already carrying it is less than their carry limit, that tells us that they still have room for a Pikmin to start carrying it. They don't have, they haven't hit their carry limit yet. There we go. That's how I word that. And I think that's the only requirement that we actually have to check for here. So if we arrive at our destination and there is room for us to carry it, then we get added to the list of carriers of that collectible. And we get told to start carrying it towards our onion. That makes sense. If for whatever reason there's already too many carriers on it, then we can just go idle. Thanks for the hydrate. The game does that too. If you send too many people towards the thing to carry it and there's not enough space, they just give up. And we don't have any logic for carrying yet. We'll get that sorted out next, but let's see if we can get this working. So maybe let's say when the Pikmin are idle, they check to see if there's anything nearby, and if there is, then they go start doing it. Nearby collectible. As they find a collectible where the distance between the Pikmin and the collectible is less than, let's say, like 100 pixels. That's probably too many, but we'll start there. So find a collectible within 100 pixels of us. And if there is one, then we tell the Pikmin to go carry it, or pick it up rather. Otherwise, if there isn't a nearby collectible, then we can just move in a random direction. So let's see how that works. There we go. One walked over to the pellet. A few more walked over to the pellet. Okay. So you can see how they're all congregating there. So I should probably make sure that there aren't too many people carrying it already before we have people try to go grab it. So we find a collectible where the collectible is nearby. And there are fewer carriers on the collectible than its carry limit. Pellet is what? 2 max. Yeah. And our pellet, we do have it set to a max of 2 here in our code. And there we have a carry limit of 2 on it. Let's refresh until the pellet spawns closer. So we should see exactly 2 go to pick it up. One, 2. Now, even if other people get close, they shouldn't go pick it up. Looks like they're just wandering past it. Perfect. Nice. Okay, here's where it gets a little bit funny. Okay, so when you're carrying something. It's not the Pikmin that are moving. Well, when the Pikmin are carrying a pellet or a corpse or something else, the Pikmin are not moving. It is the object that is moving, and the Pikmin are just attached to the object, right? Because otherwise the Pikmin would all be like moving in different directions, and they wouldn't be synchronized to the position of the object. So our carrying logic is actually not going to be the Pikmin moving towards the destination. It's actually going to be the pellet moving towards the destination on its own. And the Pikmin are just going to follow the pellet. I don't know, you're the expert, I'm just the idiot on the internet. Fair enough. Professor, will this be on the final exam? I hope not. So let's rework this movement code to work for any entity, not just Pikmin. Move entity towards. Target Y. Then a speed. Delta time. There we go. So let's see, what if this code doesn't apply when you're not working with a Pikmin? So, direction, that makes sense. Other entities don't have a direction, only Pikmin do. And then instead of having a hard-coded speed of 50, Pikmin are going to have a particular speed. Or objects are going to have a variable speed based on how many Pikmin are on them and such. So there we go. It's a valid version of that function for move entity towards instead of move Pikmin towards. So we're updating all our Pikmin, so now we need to do the same thing for carryables. Or collectibles. So a collectible should move if it has enough carriers to meet its weight requirement. So if... currently Pikmin can all carry just one, because we just have red Pikmin. So let's just leave it simple for now. Let's see. Maybe carried weight. So let's sum up all of the people carrying it. I really wish there's a shorter way to sum up numbers that didn't look so ugly, but here we are. So we're just gonna add one for each Pikmin in the list. That is how much weight we're carrying. Obviously, if you have like purples, then they count for 10. So we're gonna have to add logic for that eventually, when we add support for purple Pikmin. But for now, each Pikmin counts as 1. So if carried weight is less than the actual weight of the collectible, then we're not going to move it at all, so we'll just continue to the next collectible in the list. If we are carrying enough of weight, then we need to figure out our destination. So let's see, what's the best way to do that? I think I'm going to need to make a little more complicated loop here. Carry weight is 0. look through all the carriers. So if we have like 3 red Pikmin, 2 yellow Pikmin, how do we know what the majority destination is? We'd have to keep track of a list of how many times each value has been counted up. Random guess. I mean, theoretically, it could just be random based on the Pikmin carrying it. Let's see. What does the Pikmin wiki say about carrying logic? Destination of carried item depends on what the item is and what Pikmin types are carrying it. Destination identity is calculated based on the Pikmin carrying it. The identity will match the type of the Pikmin type that makes up the majority of the carriers. Now, whereas a tie, the type will be decided randomly between the tying types. Interesting. Also right when you're streaming programming game dev stuff, considering your stream overlays. Yeah, very much the appropriate content for, for how my overlays are set up. Alright, well let's just do this a brute force way because I'm lazy. The vibes are so good. Thanks. So, let's keep track of all the different Pikmin types. Carriers by color. Map of Pikmin colors to numbers. So if we haven't encountered this Pikmin color yet, then add it to the list. Otherwise, we add 1 to it. Complaining about. Oh. A little bit verbose, but it gets the idea across. I wonder if we can just default that to 0. Yeah. That's more concise. Okay, so we got a list of all the carriers by color. And we also keep track of the carried weight for each Pikmin. Each Pikmin contributes 1 to the total carried weight. So if we are carrying enough, the Pikmin games probably only recalculate this when a Pikmin grabs on. So we should probably do something similar here for optimization, but for now, let's just do this every frame. That's okay. We can rework it later. So now we need to find the highest count of the carriers by color. Color counts. Carriers by color. Entries. And we sort it. Oh, this is going to be so weird. Where's this credit brace come from? Okay. Dominant color. My color count. This code is ugly. The basic idea is we're getting a list of all the carriers by color, and then we're finding the dominant color by sorting it by the counts and finding the first one, so the one that gets sorted the highest. And then we'll get all of the possible dominant colors. Okay, we're definitely gonna have to move this elsewhere, but let's just roll with it for now. Color counts. Where the count is equal to the dominant color count. So all the ones that have the most number of Pikmin on it. This is so bad. Actually, I don't want to do it by color. Never mind. I want to do it by destination. Destinations by destination counts. There we go. That makes more sense. P.command type is not carry. Ignore them. There we go. Okay, that just got a lot uglier, but is what it is. Sorted destination counts. Dominant destination count. Dominant destinations. And our destination is a random one of the possible dominant destinations. This is so jank. Now let's have a function for this, because I feel like this comes up a lot. Rand item. And our list. And then it'll be random int. There we go. So that's a random item in a list. Works for me. And our destination is random item in the list of dominant destinations. This is so convoluted. Okay. Why don't we just go ahead and do that optimization that I was talking about? Let's have the collectible keep track of what its intended destination is. Optimization, yep. So right now a destination is always an onion. We'll just leave that as is. Actually, no, I can go ahead and add some optimization code for that. Type collective or carry destination. Right now that is just an onion. But theoretically we could add more types of carry destinations later. So let's leave it like that. There we go. Oh, and of course we might not have a current destination in mind. So let's also allow a empty value for that, a null value. So the pellet does not currently have a destination. That makes sense. Thanks to the hydrate. Alright, so all that to set the carryable's destination to that destination. Whew, that was a lot of logic that has not been tested at all. And all that needs to go somewhere else. Okay, so when a Pikmin starts carrying a collectible, that's when we update its possible destination. I think that makes sense. I'm just going to simplify this code a little bit to refer to this short C variable as the collectible instead of repeating it everywhere. It's a little bit lengthy. There we go. Okay, so now we got this big block of code here to calculate the proper destination for the collectible. Okay, there we go. Stretch, stretch, stretch. And instead of explicitly defining it in here, we can do destinations. Okay, yeah, so when a Pikmin picks up a collectible, then we determine the destination for the collectible. So now, if a collectible has a destination, then we can do things with them. Otherwise, we skip them. Continue to the next one on the list. So if a collectible has a destination, then we can move the collectible towards our destination. Look at that. Then we have to calculate the speed. We'll do that in a second. So different Pikmin do carry things at different speeds, like white Pikmin get a bonus to that. But for now, let's just loop through all the carriers. And add one for each Pikmin that's carrying it. And that's going to be really slow. That's going to be 1 pixel per second per Pikmin. We probably want to move faster than that. So let's just increase it by like 5 pixels per second. And I guess it also depends on the weight too, doesn't it? What's the formula the Pikmin uses? I bet there's a formula for it. Speed. Oh, nice. I love equations. Speed at which Pikmin carry an object in Pikmin depends on the carrier Pikmin's maturity and total amount, and the object's weight and maximum number of carriers. Fan-driven research has developed the following formula for the speed at which Pikmin carry an object, where W is the object's weight, M is the object's maximum carrier number, P is the set of all carrier Pikmin. It refers to the stage of any given carrier Pikmin. All numbers an arbitrary unit of speed. I'm so bad at math. Just give me that. Give me the code. Don't give me an equation. And 8 Pikmin carried objects always travel at the same speed. Cool. Have the code do the math for me? That's basically the plan. Well, let's see. $21.6 times blah plus 26.4. How about arbitrary numbers? I like Pikmin 3's formula better. And Pikmin 1's formula better. Let's see. So it's the sum of the Pikmin's individual speeds, their stages. So let's just assume they're all leaves here. So 1. So it's summing up all the Pikmin. It adds 1 for each Pikmin that's a leaf, 1.5 for each Pikmin's a bud, 2 for all the Pikmin that are flowers. Subtracts the total weight, adds 1, and then divides by carry limit, and then adds 1 to that. Okay. So I think I can just replicate this formula. So let's see, the Pikmin's contributor to the speed is the sum of all Pikmin currently. So our Pikmin speed is 1 for each leaf Pikmin. We don't have other maturity types yet coded in, so we'll just leave it at that. And then we subtract weight from it. And then add 1 to it. Minus the carryable's weight. Pikmin speed minus the weight plus 1. And then divide all of that by M, which is the maximum carrier number. Divided by the carry limit. And then add 1 again to all of that. Okay, so there we go. And actually, I guess we can go ahead and add the logic in here. Why not? So if it's a leaf, we add 1. It's a bud. It's 1.5. It's 2. Alright, there we go. And then we'll need to like multiply that by some value, probably. But there's the idea. So that calculates the speed for us. So let's say we're carrying our pellet posy. We got 2 leaf Pikmin on it. So that would be 2 for Pikmin speed, minus weight is 1, so 1 plus 1 is 2 again, so 2. divided by the carry limit, that is 2 Pikmin, so that's 2 divided by 2 is 1, and plus 1 is 2. So the equation will work out to 2 here. What is 2? 2 of something. Double speed, I guess. So let's just multiply this whole thing by some arbitrary pixel value. So let's say 50 pixels per second. And if you have 2 Pikmin on it, that goes from 1. So let's see, if we just have 1 Pikmin, have 1 minus weight is 0 plus 1. So 1 divided by carry weight, that is 1 divided by 2 is 0.5 plus 1. So that would be 1.5. So you go from 1.5 speed to 2 speed. So adding a second Pikmin only moves it 25% faster. Interesting. Or I guess 33% faster. Something like that. Still noticeable. But it's not like you double the speed on it. Okay, so then if our collectible arrives at its destination, this is where we have the pellet posy logic. So if we are a pellet, and our destination is an onion, which it should be. What is the formula here? Pellet posy. So for the 1 pellet, it's goes from worth 1 seed to worth 2 seeds if you have the right color. 5 pellet goes from being worth 3 seeds to 5 seeds. 10 pellet goes from 5 to 10. 20 pellet goes from 10 to 20. Man, that's annoying. So it mostly doubles it. Except not exactly. That's so arbitrary. Alright, so what is the logic here? Oh, actually it's pretty straightforward. So it's worth its value divided by 2 rounded up. It's worth half its value rounded up if you have the wrong color. Except the 1 pellet should really be a 2 pellet under that logic, but I guess it's confusing. So if pellet has a color that doesn't match the destination's color, say let value is the Pikmin value. Value equals ceiling, so we're going to round up. Dividing the value by 2. So if it's a pellet being put into an onion and the colors don't match, it's worth half as much as it should be worth. And then the Pikmin value of a 1 pellet is actually 2. And that matches the formula that the rest of them are doing. So 5 pellet is worth 5 with the right color. Or 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, rounded up is 3 for the wrong color. 10 pellet is worth 10, divided by 2 is 5. 20 divided by 10 is 20 divided by 2 is 10. That all makes sense. I assume the 1 was the tutorial way of showing you need at least 1 Pikmin to move it. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. I just don't get them why the other ones don't match up to that. It's not like it's a 3 pellet and a 10 pellet Like, logically, if it followed the same pattern, it would be 1 pellet, then a 3 pellet that becomes 6 seeds if you have the right color, a 5 pellet that's worth 10 seeds if you have the right color, 10 pellet that's worth 20 seeds if you have the right color. So for the 1 pellet, you get a bonus seed. For the other pellet numbers, you get a penalty for having the wrong color. It's a little bit inconsistent. It bothers me a little bit. Okay, but TLDR. For any collectible, even pellet posies, once we have the value, we just add that value to the onion. The onion's Pikmin count. So it gets that many more Pikmin inside it. And then we can spontaneously spawn Pikmin from the onion of that value. So we add those Pikmin into the onion and then immediately start spawning them. I think that makes sense. So let's see if this works. I have no idea if it will. So I need to wait for a Pikmin to pick up the pellet. Come on, guys. You know you want to. There, one's right next to it. Come on. There you go. Grab it. And a bunch of other Pikmin went to grab it. Oh, okay. Now it's just spewing out thousands of Pikmin. Oh yeah, we don't get rid of the pellet, so it's just being continually cashed in. Okay. So we need to remove the pellet. It's like the video posted the other day, exactly. So, how do we remove the pellet? Let me write a helper function for this because it's going to come up a lot. Remove from list value index is that. Find where the value is in the list, and then if it exists, the index isn't invalid. Splice. Yeah, at the index, delete 1. And we can say return true if you did remove something, otherwise don't. Okay. Okay, so how do I do this? Where is it? Here we are. So, we need to remove the collectible from the collectibles list. Remove it from that list, remove it from the entities list. And then for all the carriers, we also need to unassign the carriers. So they're no longer trying to carry it anymore. So we can just tell them all to become idle. There we go. There we go. I think it worked. Alright, so let's test this. Let's just spawn one Pikmin instead of 100 Pikmin. Maybe 2 Pikmin. Yeah. And then let's increase the distance where they'll try to pick things up. Right now it's a little bit short. So right now it's 100 pixels. Let's up that to like 250 pixels. There we go. They're both going to go pick that up. I carry it. And it spawned 2 more Pikmin. There we go. So this needs a lot of cleanup, but the basic principle is there now. So now what if we spawn a bunch of pellets? So now the Pikmin population is multiplying. So it's a little bit jank, because currently they're trying to pick up an item that's been removed. So I think we're going to have to add some special logic in here to keep track of that. Any way to have on screen how many Pikmin there are, maybe? Yes, we could go ahead and do that right now, actually. So let's create an element to hold that value. Let's see, we create the canvas here. Pikmin count. Say UI, so I can find this easier. Actually, you know what? Don't even have to do that. We can literally draw text. What am I thinking? Don't even need a separate element for it. Okay, we draw all the entities. Context, text. Fill text. There we go. We don't actually have a Pikmin count of 100, but let's just do it for visual purposes. Fill style. Baseline. Top. Left alignment. Okay, and it's tiny. So let's fix that too. There we go. Now I got a Pikmin counter. Okay. It looks like they're just throwing the pellets at the enemy. Yeah, currently they're not following the pellets positioning. So we can fix that at least decently right now. So if the Pikmin is carrying, Pikmin command type carry. Oh, there we go. We'll just, for now, we'll just attach them directly to the same position. They should have offsets, but we haven't calculated those yet. So we'll just leave it there. There we go, that looks more like they're carrying it. Kind of. Alright, I think sometimes they get stuck because they are trying to pick up a collectible that no longer exists. Because they chase after the one that's being carried. And they don't get a chance to latch onto it. So let's fix that a bit, shall we? Okay. So I think we need a new setting here on entities. Or deleted. And then we can say, when we arrive at our destination with our collectible, we delete them. That'll work. And then if we have a collectible that we're trying to pick up and it's deleted, then we just go idle. There we go. And these are the exact same kinds of bugs that they may have run into programming the original Pikmin. It's kind of a fun thought. I doubt they have exactly the same setup I do, but they probably have some kinds of similar abstractions. Alright, so there we go. I got Pikmin to loot all the pellet posies. So currently you see a bunch of Pikmin try to latch onto the pellet posies as they're being carried by, because they can see that there's there is an uncarried item nearby them. So they all try to grab onto it, but because they never actually touch it, because it moves past them, they never actually get onto it to count as the second carrier. So I think we'll need to fix that. You can probably make them a bit slower. Yeah, probably. Let's see. Alternatively, make them faster. Surely this has been calculated. Pikmin movement speed. Here we go. Tool assisted speedrun documentation. And 3 stages of Pikmin. Leaf 120 speed, Bud 140, and Flower 170. Captain's around 160, and 205 with the rush boots. Okay. That sounds helpful. When you do your own Pikmin tasks. That sounds like a long time investment, but it does sound like it would be fun. This sounds like a good case for another function here to get a Pikmin's base movement speed. So if their maturity is leaf, just divide these by 100. 1.2, Bud is 1.4. And a flower is 1.7. Interesting. And I guess when they're carrying it, then they would be 1.52. That doesn't sound right. Should be able to carry it faster than their base walking speed. I know it takes a long time, but I'd be so curious to see a task being made. That would be really cool. I did toy around with doing one for the original Metroid once. Got a little way in. And it does take a long time to code it all up properly. I'm gonna move Pikmin towards. And speed. Let's say the same 50 pixels is the baseline. I can't tell if that actually worked or not. Doesn't look like it. Looks like they're still faster carrying it than they are walking around, which doesn't make any sense. Why would they be faster? So Pikmin speed is 1, minus 1 is 0, plus 1 is 1. But if a carry weight is 2, so it should be 0.5 plus 1 is 1.5. Yeah, that is faster than their base movement speed. Let's say they carry at half speed then. Maybe that'll be more appropriate. There we go. Looks like both of them are carrying that one now. Now that does feel a little bit slow. They're all going to pick that one up. Okay, so maybe not. They're all going to try to carry it, which shouldn't be possible. Something else we can do is we can make it a little bit more broad to count whether they've reached their destination or not. So this is something that we're going to have to implement anyway for the carrying animation, I'll call it. The collectibles also have a radius. How far away the Pikmin will be when they're carrying the object. So let's see. Carry radius. And it's also going to be a little bit tricky because it's not going to be strictly a circle because of this kind of top-down perspective. Let's go with the plain circle for now, just for simplicity. Hello, Lowell. How's it going? Boyo! Indeed. Alright, so a radius of a circle around the pellet posy would be about 16 pixels. So let's say 16 for the carry radius. And we can adjust from there. Love that. Okay, and then is the night for you there now? No, it's 5 p.m. here. Sun's still out. Let's say like target radius. How close we have to be to the exit to count as being there. There we go. Oh, and I kind of want to split this up too. Pikmin look at. So we got all this logic here to determine what direction to face in. We can probably do the same thing. Okay, so we need dir-x. Grab that from this. Need a reference to the Pikmin. I got to teach at a university. Nah, I am not a very good teacher. I wish I was. I would love to teach. I'm just not very good at it. There we go. So now we can make the Pikmin look at where they're moving towards, and then for the pellet poses, we can make them look at the pellet posy too, which would be nice. Okay, so anyway, we made that modification, so now when we're moving to a target, it's out in the open, we just have a small radius, so they try to get almost exactly there. If a Pikmin's moving towards something they're trying to pick up, then they only need to get close enough to reach the radius of the thing they're carrying. If the collectible is moving to a destination, we can say that the onion has a bit of a radius to it as well. We'll just hardcode that for now. Okay. And now if they're going to pick up, yeah, they just got to get to the carry radius. So now hopefully they should be able to attach themselves to the same pellet more easily. Yeah, it looks like they stopped because the pellet reached the maximum number of carriers. Nice. So that solved that. I can't tell if the pellet actually starts moving faster or not. With 2 people on it. But that's much closer. Feels close to how they actually act in game, exactly. There's probably a lot smarter checks on them in the actual game, but this is the right idea. Moving in the right direction. Doesn't feel like a lot, but I think it's faster. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's definitely faster. It did speed up there. It wasn't dramatically faster, but it was slightly faster. So I'll count it. Alright, next we should make it so the Pikmin aren't standing directly on the center of the pellet posy. So, we're gonna do some math here. Ugh, math. So first, the Pikmin's gonna look at the collectibles position. I'm just gonna put a reference to it here. So look at the pellet posy. Pikmins wander, like go running around on their own, and this they do. In the actual games, generally not too much. But so far we're doing that, since we don't have a captain around to give them commands. Okay, and then I want them to take up a certain position around the collectible, right? So let's figure this out. So it'll be based on how many Pikmin are already on it, where they'll go. So let's just start putting some numbers together. So we got which number we are of the carriers. Are we carrier number 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth? And then we need to get, of those carriers, are we like 0% of... math doesn't make any sense. Okay. Let me try to put this into words. So, the way at least Pikmin 1 and 2 worked, and they made this better in Pikmin 3, but I'm lazy, so I'm going to do it the easy way, like they did at first, is when Pikmin are carrying an object, they form a circle around the object they're carrying, right? So we need to kind of calculate each position that the Pikmin can be in that circle based on which number of carrier they are. So like for an object that can be carried by 2 Pikmin. They're going to form a circle around the pellet with 2 positions in the circle, which are going to be on opposite sides of the circle. So each Pikmin is going to have to calculate where on that circle that they should be when they're carrying the object, based on the total number of carriers and which carrier they are. So now we've got which carrier we are. Let's see. And the total, I don't know how you put that. How does the positioning work? So if you got 2, then it's at 0 and 50%. If you got 3, it'll be at 0, 33%, 66%. Yeah, so it's just 1 divided by the total number of carriers, or it's like 360 would be the number of degrees, divided by the carry limit, times I. Would be the angle we're at in the circle. And it won't be 360 because we're working with radians instead of degrees. So it'll actually math that pi times 2 divided by the carry limit. There we go. And the next is trigonometry. Cosine of the angle times the radius. Say target X, target Y. And then for the y-axis, it's sine instead of cosine. Times the carrier radius. I just have all these formulas memorized. I'm honestly not good at explaining why they're used the way they are. But bottom line, this is how you position someone on a circle. It's through fancy trigonometry stuff. So then Pikmin, or move Pikmin towards, move the Pikmin towards target X position, target Y position. And then they need to be relatively close to that. It doesn't really matter where exactly. Thanks to the hydrate. And even though they're moving in that position, they're always going to face towards the center of the object. So they're going to look at it. There we go. Let's see if that works. It does not. Okay, I know what I did wrong, though. So these formulas will get their position on the circle, but the circle is currently centered on 0, 0, because that's the default. So we need to add this to the coordinates of the carryable, so it's a circle centered around the carryable. There we go. So they both go pick up that one. There we go, look at that, they're carrying it. At least visually look more like they're carrying it. That looks much better. This is fun. I'm loving how much progress we've made. So something I've noticed is that they all go and try to charge the same one, even though there's multiple possible things within range that they could go try to grab. So we can fix that really quick. So currently when Pikmin are idle, they find one collectible that's within 250 pixels and isn't under the carry limit. Instead, we can find all nearby collectibles. And then, if there are multiple nearby collectibles, Then we grab a random item from that list and use that. Okay, in that case, they still want to grab the same one, but maybe theoretically they should split up more. Yeah, okay, those guys all want to grab different things. Go help him with that one. Yeah, there you go. Now, currently the positions they're taking around him are always in the same place. I don't know if that's a problem or not. But we could add another random offset to it to make it so that they're not always on the left and right hand side of these pellet posies. That'd be easy enough to do. Let me go ahead and do that actually, just really quick. Easy enough. Easier to read like that? That is true. So it might be fine. If it's always in the same angles. Alright, so just for demonstration purposes, if we bump this up so that you could have 6 Pikmin carrying 1 pellet posy. Early Pikmin's also at set positions to the basic pellet. That is true. So let's see what it looks like with more Pikmin carrying 1. See, they all circle around it and they all look at it. I'd say that it looks pretty decent. These guys are gonna bring these back, then a bunch of them are gonna go help. Nice, and then it speeds up pretty dramatically as more Pikmin are carrying it. Looks good, yeah. Cool. So yeah, we now have Pikmin that can carry stuff back and cash it in for... Currently they just directly spawn more Pikmin, but we could have it spawn buds. They need to be plucked. We just don't have anyone to pluck yet. Now let's see, what are we at time-wise? We're nearly at the 3-hour mark. Cool. We can keep going for a little bit longer. Right now we're way over the 3-hour mark. What am I saying? We started at... No, we started at 3, not 2. Yeah, okay. So we're at 2 minutes... 40 minutes? 2 hours, 40 minutes. Cool, so what should we do next? Polishing is always the annoying part, so I kind of want to focus still on gameplay mechanics and then make the animations nicer later. Let's see, either more stuff to carry or a different color. Yeah. Yeah, combat would be a big one. There's a lot of stuff that's going to go into combat. We can start adding different colors. What happens if we've got like red and blue competing here? Okay. So let's start adding other Pikmin colors. Sure, why not? That's not all the Pikmin frames, is it? No, it is, yeah. I just forgot because we flip stuff around and things. Okay. So you know what? I'm gonna do this by making a second layer and just positioning these on top of the red Pikmin sprites. You need something else you want to do, that is just your suggestion? No, that makes sense. We also need to make sure all our logic works for multiple Pikmin colors. Also add other maturity types as well. I gotta do it eventually, so I might as well, actually. Yeah, this way I can make sure they're all in the right positions. Alright, let's flit. There we go. There we go. The ones from behind. And these are nearly overlapping. That's a problem. I've cut off that one's ear. The edge of his ear. Unfortunate. Such an amazing program. Yeah, I am pretty familiar with using GIMP. I could probably be faster in an actual sprite editing program, but this is what I'm familiar with. We're just dragging sprites around. There we go, and now the horizontal. Yeah, their noses are very different. I guess the red one should be the nose Pikmin, not the yellow Pikmin ear Pikmin, right? And blue Pikmin mouth Pikmin, I guess. There you go, that just lines up. Nice. Alright, there's all yellow Pikmin sprites. We just gotta move them down. There we go. And let's at least do the main three colors. And then let's see about the white and purple Pikmin and other colors. They might be different. Still be on the sprite sheet, but we might have special logic for them. Okay, copy that. Copy that. There we go. That looks right. And we're not overwriting, good. Pikmin eyes, yep. They look a bit different this far zoomed in, don't they? No soul, just pure obedience, exactly. The Pikmin live to serve. They live to serve or they serve to live? Both. Okay, there we go. We technically have a little bit of empty space here in this quadrant that we could potentially fill with something else later. But for now, we're not exactly starving for space. See, there we go. There we go, we got our 3 colors. Why don't we go ahead and line up the other maturity symbols as well? Same logic. And it's just all copied and pasted. There you go, that all looks the same. And it's these ones that may have been off slightly. There we go. Oh, yes. That is correct. I was like, there's an empty row here. Yeah, there is, because that's where the body of the Pikmin will be. That is correct. Okay, the flower might be a little bit different. Let's say there. There we go. Flip that around. Move that down. Looks kind of funny with the leaf underneath the flower. It's kind of cute. Alright, there we go. And again, we won't worry about the other colors for now, just these ones. There we go. Oh, and then we need the onions and the pellets as well. We can do that. I'm going to scale these up. Or 80. Is it off by 1? There it is. There we go. Move these down. 256 pixels. Is that right? That looks right. Yeah. Okay, same with the blues. I guess I could have pellet posies as attackable enemies next. Before we add anything as complicated as like bulb orbs. There we go. Just drag these down. They're dragging me down here. There we go. That fills up most of our sprite sheet right there. It's fun the sheet has purple and white onions. Internet keeps having small disconnects. Oh no, I'm sorry, that sucks. Let's see. That's the same positioning? No. Up by 1 pixel. There we go. There we go. It's just on programming stream, it's not on something more active. Yeah, it's not like you're missing a whole lot here. Okay, so pellet poses should be the same, except further down by 32 pixels. Yeah, we can figure it out. Okay, so onions, we got red, yellow, And everything else is the same. And blue. Same with the pellets. Red, yellow, and blue. And then Pikmin leaf. So all this needs to be offset down by quite a bit. They leaf and never come back, precisely. 256. Okay. Leaf, bud. And I do some math here. 256 plus 64 is 320. 356 plus 128 is 384. 6 plus 192 is 448. There we go. It's probably not the most efficient format for this. I wonder if I can compact this down a bit. So currently this is most of the file. As long as it works, yeah, well, we'll see. So 512 minus 256 plus 56, 512. 320 plus 256 is 576. 384 plus 256, 640. Is that right? 512 plus 64, 64, 64, 74. Okay. Same thing with Pikmin. Pikmin red. Pikmin leaf green. Pikmin fire red. Alright, so yellow should be down. Same amount. Never played Fire Red and Leaf Green. Those were technically my first Pokemon games. Oops. Six, 320, 384. 448. And then blue. Been playing Pokemon since the OG Game Boy. Yeah, our earliest console that we had was the GBA, as I wasn't allowed to have them when I was little. But my friend had a bunch of them on the Game Boy Color, and I did play a little bit on that, but of course I wasn't allowed to start a new save because I'd wipe out his. So I didn't get to play a whole lot of it, Pokemon specifically. I don't know when Pokemon is going to start having multiple save slots. That would be nice. You can kind of do it on Switch by just having different profiles. This is free to create a profile as long as it's not linked to a Switch Online account. It's not quite the same thing, though. Okay, there we go. So that should be all the colors and maturities. That requires having a physical copy of the game. It does. Leaf, bud, flower. And bud. Pikmin flower. Pikmin color sprites. Red, yellow. I haven't actually defined yellow as a color yet. That's funny. Okay, there we go. Red, yellow, blue. Okay. So let's create our onions. Red onion. Yellow onion. Blue onion. There we go, and now we need to put these in different places. Let's see how that looks. They're the wrong color, but we do have the individual Pikmin showing up. So now we just need to fix the onion colors. Onion color sprites. Red sprites dot onion dot red. Yellow sprites dot onion dot yellow. Blue sprites dot onion dot blue. And we're gonna need the same thing for the palette posies. Thanks to the hydrate. There we go. Then we modify our drawing code. So we're drawing an onion. There we go. Same thing for the pellets. There we go. So now we got different pigment colors, and they bring them back to their appropriate onions. Spawn more of their pigment colors. Nice. Look at that. Thriving Pikmin ecosystem. Let's see if we can spawn some different colored Pelipposies as well. Where do we spawn those? Here we do. Here we are. Rand int. Where else were we doing that? And direction. Oh, so this does an exclusive value. Yeah, okay. And item. There we go. Random color. So it should just spawn one if it's the wrong color. If it's the right color, it should spawn two. Yep, looks like it. Nice. So that logic is working properly. Cool. So that all works. And I guess we can have the Pikmin spawn with a random maturity as well for testing purposes. There we go. So now I got Bud and Flower Pikmin walking around. Flower Pikmin are noticeably faster. That's so cool. Got a little Pikmin terrarium. I guess we can make it so that onions can't spawn if you're over the global Pikmin limit. So we could cap it at 100. For over or equal to 100 Pikmin, stop spawning. Makes sense. Now let's see if we can hit that. We spawn with, like, say, 10 Pikmin of each color instead of 2. Dum ba da da dum ba dum bum. We probably need more pellet posies as well. Say 50. Yeah, it's not quite gonna hit 100. Gonna get close though. Okay, yeah, so if a different Pikmin color jumps in to help, they can actually steal it for their own onion. That's fun. And if we have a frankly absurd number, how does that work? 100 pellet posies. There we go, and it stops spawning additional ones. And should hopefully still be adding them to the onions. Yeah. You can see the Pikmin counts in there. Nice. So there we go. We got a self-playing Pikmin game. So I think that's probably a good starting point for today, but I think the next big thing would be to implement a captain and buds, so the Pikmin can't pluck themselves or give themselves orders. And then we'd still have them have some autonomy, just because that seems useful. They should be able to, you know, if they're idle, they can carry things that are nearby or drink nectar or whatever. And then eventually we'll need to implement combat. And yeah. Very cool. Enjoy how it's going to adjust to the screen resolution too. So we do a full screen window, then it's all spread out horizontally. Or if we do like a tiny window, it's going to be super dense. Bum, 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 bum. Cool. Yeah, what happens now if we have them on screen? There we go. Drop pellet poses all over my stream. Gasp. And that wouldn't be distracting at all while you're trying to watch a stream and there's just Pikmin walking all over it. You can totally understand the stream, yep. Might watch the Pikmin more, exactly. So I will need to figure out how I'm gonna make this work as a stream game. Like, I think it's fine if you like leave it on like a BRB screen while you're not expecting people to actually be able to see you and interact with you. This would be very distracting if you're actually like trying to play a game or something. It'll come in time. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But for now, we do have basic Pikmin AI where they drag things around, so that's cool. Where's Crafty? She's gonna love this. Probably lurking. I imagine she's got stuff to do. Alright. And do they have eggs? I'm not seeing any eggs. I feel like that'd be an important element. I guess not. I pick an attacking frame, so those just look like them standing. Find a pixel spread of chert. There you go. Oh, worst case, I can spray it up some if I need to. I'm just not very good at it. I love the idea they're supposed to roll by just like 4 frame rotation. Like affect the stream quality or slow the PC? It might if it's super high resolution. I got a decent PC and decent bitrate, so it seems fine on my end, but I'll have to experiment with it. We kill the bitrate as showed last time, but otherwise probably fine. Yeah. It's all a web app, so it shouldn't be too crazy. And so cute. Alright, let's find a raid target. I am tired. Yeah, thanks for being here, Yazoo, and Lol, and Annika, and Schwinn, and Rox, and Lumine, everyone else lurking. Appreciate all of you for stopping by. Good work today. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Irvin's playing Resident Evil 2. Sure, why not? Been rating Irvin a lot lately. Markadu just went live. I think he's still getting started though. Yeah, let's go say hi to Irvin. Why not? Alright, more Pikmin 4 on Tuesday. I'm very excited for that. And more Fire Emblem Engage on Friday. And then may or may not be doing another collab next weekend. Or we'll see. Depends on how Schwinn's feeling and how other people are feeling. But I do have 3 collabs in the works, including this one, so sooner or later we'll be getting another collab stream. So look forward to that. Alright. I'll see y'all next time. Do a collab with yourself? I always do. And I do a Sami collab every Friday. That's the real major collab.